Hello and welcome to today's special video about Miss Teriri and her comeback. I'm just gonna get right into it. You've probably read the title. I'm here to talk about Theresa's pull value right now. Um, yes, I've been working very hard on this video, so make sure to like and subscribe as well as leave a comment if it helped you out. Thank you very much. Okay, so firstly I have to put out a warning, obviously. This review looks at Theresa's current value in the meta for Memorial Arena and Abyss and is made to help people who have a hard time making decisions as well as beginner and returning players. I'm here to give you objective information on Theresa as well as subjective advice and help out as much as I can. As more characters are released, Theresa's value will change, maybe it will increase, maybe it will decrease, only time will tell. This video is recorded before we have any information on Vita, who is coming 7.8 and is also a lightning character. How Vita's release will impact Theresa is going to be known next week in the Chinese beta. Okay, so firstly, I'm obviously going to start with the disadvantages, and that is the first disadvantage is very situational. So it matters now, but if you're watching this far into the future, it won't matter. It's that following Theresa's patch 7.7, in 7.8, not are we only getting one of the most hyped up characters for the past year Vita, but 7.8 will, like, I'm 90% sure will line up with the Chinese anniversary, and just like any anniversary, there will be special banners, there will be most likely a spending event. So good thing about Honkai Impact characters is that they have reruns all the time, especially part 2 characters. So Theresa's banner comes 7.7. There's a huge chance that she might already have a rerun 7.8, and if not 7.8, then definitely 7.9. So if you want to keep up with information from the Chinese servers, which usually goes for global as well, you can check out Marisa Honkai on Twitter. He's the biggest Honkai creator. He always posts live updates for Chinese banners, which can tell you ahead of time who's coming to global. Theresa's biggest disadvantage is the fact that she's a quantum character, which might lower her overall value if quantum characters are just as rare in part 2 as they are in part 1. To talk about why quantum is objectively the worst type in the game, I have to go back to part 1. Quantum is one of the 3 non-original damage types, so Quantum, Imaginary, and Stardust, and it has its own gimmick just like Imaginary and Stardust. Imaginary has the double HP bars, Stardust has basically the multiple phase HP bar. Quantum's specialty are Quantum Shields, which I'm going to talk about in a while. These 3 types have no positive type counter with any of the others, so most of the time, defeating bosses from Quantum, Imaginary, and Stardust requires at least one character of the same type. Some imaginary bosses actually can be defeated by the part 2 trio, which has no imaginary characters, but that's still a small amount in the big scheme of things. So Quantum's special mechanic, which are Quantum Shields, are a pain in the ass. That's the best way to say it. While they are active, the enemy's resistance to all status effects is increased, and the enemy gains high damage reduction. So if you want to defeat the boss, you basically have to get rid of its quantum shields, and there's 2 ways to do it. One is to use a quantum character whose ability can get rid of an enemy shield. Usually it's a quantum character's ultimate, like Vilvi, Susanna, and Teriri all use their ultimates to cause what is called quantum collapse, and you get rid of a shield. And the other way is to dodge the appropriate enemy attacks. When you do it successfully, within a given time frame, you attack the enemy and it loses 1 quantum shields. Part 2, quantum bosses, so Theresa's new signature boss as well as new Abyss stages actually have a new quantum mechanic, which might make it a bit less bad to deal with, but I'll talk that in the advantages point. During part 1, quantum characters were not that common. Like usually we would get 1 per year, like on average, let's say, even though our last quantum character was Susanna, which was released I think April 2023, which means she was released almost a year and a half ago. And she's the only one still kind of usable. Compared to Stardust, which is our newest type, In 10 months, we got 3 characters, 2 of which are Senadina and Songchue, which are part 2 characters and have huge value. You see? So Quantum is always at a disadvantage. The thing with Quantum enemies is that even with this new part 2 mechanic that I'm gonna explain, Quantum enemies, especially bosses, still require quick reflexes as well as knowing the enemy's attack pattern, so you know when to dodge the appropriate attacks so you can get rid of Quantum shields. Honkai works just like any other gacha game, where the newest patch, so the newest meta, always favors the newest Valkyrie released. Since Quantum characters have always been rare, so have Quantum bosses. Quantum bosses would only consistently appear during like the first 1 to 3 patches after a Quantum character is released. After that, they start appearing less and less often, to the point where we could go months without a single Quantum boss. Like this year, 8 months have already passed. Literally in 8 months, we got a Quantum boss like 2 times, which is insane, right? So this is why I'm telling you is that Quantum characters have had lower value, because no Quantum bosses in Abyssal Memorial Arena means literally no need for a Quantum character. Remember how at the beginning of the disadvantages point I mentioned that Theresa being Quantum might lower her overall value? Well, if part 2 releases a small amount of Quantum characters like they did in part 1, so like once every 1 to 2 years, her value will be lower than like Senadina's or Vita's, because they're both lightning. So yeah. Now, another thing that I have to mention is that part 1 characters were like 85% of the time cut out for a very specific role. So either a support or a DPS, and even those that could be run as both a support and a DPS, one role would be a lot more useful, obviously. So with me saying that, we can move on to the second portion of the video, which is Theresa's biggest advantage, and that is that she is a part 2 character. So she's not a part 1 Quantum, she's a part 2 Quantum character, and that genuinely does change things. The reason why I brought up characters' dedicated roles is because part 2 characters absolutely obliterated that rule and any sense of team building we had in part 1. So when a character is a DPS, you run them against their signature boss. But when you're not fighting their signature boss, you could use them as a support. You can literally mix and match any type or any element, including physical and elemental, which never happened in part 1. So, of course, still for Quantum bosses, especially Theresa's signature boss, if you want a high score, you'll have her as the leader, and you'll want to have her in the team. If you don't have Theresa, it's gonna be a bit rough. Theresa's best team consists of Senadina and Telema, that a lot of you already have, but her teams can be flexible because you can also run her instead of Telema, Lantern, Helia, or Coralie. But all of Theresa's best part 2 teams consist of Miss Senadina. When I did my pulling guide, like in 7.3, I said roll for Senadina no matter what, and I'm really glad I said that because she's literally the most OP part 2 character. Theresa, yeah, so even though again you can use Lantern, Helia, or Coralie, Telema is still a big jump over them because Telema's damage in this team during Stellar Outburst is, I don't know what to say, absolutely destroys the enemy. I'll put a clip of me fighting the newest enemy. Here's S0 Telema, literally getting rid of 5 HP bars within like 6 seconds. She's absolutely insane in that team. Theresa Schicksal Imperative actually also replaces Eden in whatever is left of part 1 Lightning teams, and now the best part 1 Lightning team is Theresa Lunar Vow, who's the main DPS and the leader in the team, Schicksal's Imperative, who is a sub DPS and a support, and Grizel Cosmic Expression, who is a support for the other 2. A lot of people aren't gonna have Grizel Cosmic Expression's gears, so I think her replacement is gonna be Hersher of Truth in this team, but still, part 2 characters are they're much stronger, obviously. Another advantage that Theresa has as a quantum character over other quantum characters is that her newest boss, as well as new quantum side stages in Abyss, introduce a new quantum mechanic which makes it easier to fight quantum bosses. So during the quantum mechanics for part 1, I mentioned that to get rid of a quantum shield, you need to dodge specific attacks. Well, this new mechanic for quantum enemies makes it much easier to remove a shield, and the way that it works is basically you have this ball attached to your character. Whenever you dodge an enemy attack, any attack, and you cause an ultimate evasion, the ball basically like gets destroyed and one enemy shield is destroyed in return, right? So before you would have to dodge very specific attacks, and then you have to attack the enemy to get rid of a shield. Now you have this random ball attached to you, and when you dodge any attack and cause ultimate evasion, you automatically get rid of one quantum shield. Okay, adding this because I just don't want to confuse anyone, because I know for new players it might sound a bit confusing. So basically you have the part 1 quantum mechanic, which is when you dodge a specific attack, you attack the enemy and you get rid of its quantum shield. While for part 2, you have this ball that's called a collapsed point that's attached to your character. So when you dodge any attack from the enemy, a quantum shield is destroyed in return. So from my testing in the beta, basically part 1 bosses stay the same. They just keep using their old mechanic. While part 2 quantum bosses, so far only Theresa's a new boss, as well as the quantum enemies in the new quantum side stages, can utilize both part 1 and part 2 mechanic. Again though, even that easier mechanic, still you need to know how to dodge properly. You have to, like fighting quantum enemies of any rarity, you have to know how to dodge. You have to know how to trigger quick time events, and you need to learn the enemy's patterns and attacks. The faster you do that, the easier it's gonna get. Fighting quantum enemies, it's never easy, but knowing their attack patterns will make it a lot easier. Now the next advantage for Theresa Schicksal Imperative is that she is very simple to use. Literally, she has like 3 buttons. She has ult button, she has QT button, and she has combo attack button, and that's it. Like her whole rotation, you press ult, you switch out to Senadina Telema, you switch back in through QT, that automatically ends her burst mode, do her combo attack, cast ultimate again, and it repeats. Now the last point that I have to make, as if Senadina wasn't OP enough already, Theresa makes her even better, since every part 2 Theresa Schicksal Imperative team has to have Senadina in it. So if you don't have Senadina, you better get her. So, because literally, if you want to get Schicksal's Imperative, but if you don't have Senadina, I have bad news for you. So that's why I'm telling you, Theresa right now, her overall value is not that high, and it's definitely lower than Senadina's or Telema's, and probably it's going to be lower than Vita's as well. So my conclusion is, save for 7.8, Vita will most likely be insane, and Vita is another lightning character, so I don't know how that's going to impact Theresa. If you're really, really set on getting Theresa, I would genuinely suggest that you think about getting her on her rerun. Again, should be either 7.8 or 7.9, because right now she has lower value than other part 2 characters. But I also have to put out a warning that if you're a competitive player, if you don't have Theresa Schicksal's Imperative, or maybe even Susanna, you'll struggle a lot, and you probably won't even be able to do the boss in time. But I think that right now it's worth it to skip a few Abyss bosses, and in return you'll have a decent amount of crystals for 7.8, especially if you're F2P. So yeah, that was basically all I wanted to say. I re-recorded this video 3 times, and now I have to find footage to actually put in the video. So yeah, it's time to get to work. If this helped you out, if you are looking for more Honkai guides, I have some on my channel, and I'm planning on doing an updated beginner's guide for rolling, like rolling priority for 7.8. I originally wanted to do it for 7.7, but I said since Vita's coming and I know a lot of people are gonna want her, I will do a updated rolling priority for 7.8. If you like this video, if it helped you out, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, leave a like. Genuinely, all feedback matters. Anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. Have fun in 7.7. I'm probably gonna upload Theresa rotation guide next Thursday when she's released. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Bye.